Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. This is an update on Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. It's a little bit past 2:30 on the East Coast here, and we have been focusing on a atmospheric bomb that's really exploding over the Pacific Ocean, and it's resulting in an atmospheric river that is going to be causing hurricane-force wind gusts, heavy, intense precipitation, perhaps flooding on the West Coast around Oregon and Northern California. There's going to be some also blizzard warnings that have been issued in the mountains of Washington state. Well, I mean, how can you miss this, right? In this GOES satellite image, this is the latest imagery from the GOES West satellite. Normally, I show the GOES East satellite, but NOAA has two of them in geostationary orbit that are operational right now. One over 75 degrees west longitude, and the other one over 135 degrees west longitude. And there is a third one, GOES 19, which is basically over the center part of the country undergoing tests right now. That one was launched earlier in the summer, and that's going to be giving us even more capability as time goes on. But take a look at this. You can't miss it, right? This is an intense low pressure system. I'm going to point a couple of things out. Look at this thing wrapping up as the daylight has come across there. So you can see this thing is going to get an eye. I am pretty sure of it, where the center of the storm is basically clear, just meaning it's a very intense low pressure system. It's not a hurricane, but it does have winds around it, and seas are building up to 20 feet in some areas here, perhaps even more in the Pacific Ocean. Look at this stream of moisture. These are the clouds. I'm going to show you the water vapor channel that I used yesterday as well, because it can really help us almost do like a CAT scan of the atmosphere, where we can say, show me the moisture at the higher levels of the atmosphere. They're going to be rushing in, hitting those mountains, and squeezing out in very intense precipitation. Some areas higher elevation, really high. It'll be snow, and other areas mostly rain, with flooding rain as a result. So this is just amazing imagery. Let me take this full screen here and show you what's going on across the rest of the country. Lots of sunshine, boy, wind and storms yesterday in Oklahoma and Kansas. Here is that storm from the perspective of the GOES West satellite. Look at that, and that strong low moving up into Canada. Another one's developing though, that will be impacting the East Coast. But let's talk about this one on the west. Look at this as we scroll over to the west. Here is that strong jet stream, and that is an atmospheric river right now. We can see it developing, just starting to hit the west coast, particularly in southern Oregon and northern California. Some of the latest guidance from the folks there in San Diego, University of San Diego, at the Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes there at UCSD, are forecasting a potential AR5. I'll show you that scale here in just a second, what that means. But you can see this moisture heading in to Oregon and Northern California. Meanwhile, huge waves and strong winds around this low. But here's what else I'm going to zoom in on this and show you what else is going on. Look at this area of energy. This is another low pressure system. This is what we call vorticity, air really circulating around, that's going to dive around down underneath of this low to the south of it and develop yet another intense low pressure system. Look at how we can see that rotating around here. That's cold air coming in, more stable air, but it's there's stratocumulus clouds behind it, a lot of stratocumulus clouds behind this big one, but this is just a very intense low pressure system. I'll see if I can get up the 1 minute satellite imagery in this sector as well. I think they've got the mesosector going on the GOES West satellite. But there are going to be a lot of impacts for this system that's really wrapping up. We can basically describe this as a mid-latitude hurricane that's developing. It's not tropical in nature. It needs different dynamics and atmospheric energy to get itself going. But the impacts are going to be hurricane force winds that are going to be slamming the West Coast. And that is an area from Central Oregon, even maybe from Astoria, the Columbia River, all the way down to Northern California are going to feel the brunt of this storm, with rainfall of 8 to 12 inches expected. And atmospheric rivers are important. They do give us the opportunity to gather rain and runoff in the reservoirs that really empower people to get drinking water and electricity throughout California and Nevada as well, even down to Southern California. But this system is really quite impressive. I'm going to show you over here, I'm going to show you the water vapor imagery as well. I said I was going to do that. Take a look at this. I've widened out a little bit on the water vapor, but this is that system wrapping up. All of this is intense rain that's going to be heading towards the West Coast. And then behind it, it's really going to just keep pouring in here. That's what we mean about an atmospheric river. It taps this moisture. And look at this. Look, all the way down here. Here's Hawaii down in here. And what we're seeing is this almost, it used to be called the Pineapple Express, if you will. Here's Hawaii. There are the Hawaiian Islands. And tapping moisture there and driving it all the way to the West Coast because of this large-scale weather system. And look at the circulation around it. And then this is that energy that's going to be diving down and creating yet another low-pressure system. So here's what I thought I would do. Let me show you GeoCollaborate full screen here and what's going on, because we do have a lot of advisories that are happening as well. And these advisories are going on from Washington State all the way down to California. And that's really very impactful, that's for sure. You can see I've got the radar data turned on. The radar doesn't really go far beyond here on the land, and the mountains also tend to block different radars that are up and down the West Coast. But you can see the rain kind of streaming in here and also coming in, wrapping around this low pressure system, impacting Washington and the coastal areas as well. But what I want to do is turn on all of the advisories, the watches, warnings, and advisories that are in effect throughout the West Coast. And here they are. I just turned them on. All the way from blizzard warnings in the mountains of Washington State, heading up towards Snoqualmie Pass, so that's going to be really nasty. Winter storm warnings in eastern Washington. But look at this. On the West Coast, we have storm warnings in effect. That's winds of 50 to 60 knots expected in this area. We obviously have to the south, where the storm is impacting as well, more storm warnings, hurricane force wind warnings along the West Coast here as well, just offshore. Can zoom in a little bit closer and show you what's going on. So many advisories along the Washington and Oregon. Here's Portland, Oregon here, coastlines. Very high winds are likely going to be causing power outages, toppling trees as well. And even down here in the green area, we have high wind warnings, we have high surf warnings, and we also have excessive rainfall outlooks. Excessive rainfall outlook for this entire area. Let me back out just a little bit more. And you can see all of the impacts here, even Northern California here. This purple area, a storm warning. Stay inside, off of all of the sea in the Pacific Ocean here. We have a major cyclone that is developing. We call it in meteorological terms a bomb, a cyclone bomb. And in the wind field, it is really very, very impressive. As a matter of fact, let me show you what that wind field looks like right now. I'll go back here to this area. Look at that wind field. My goodness, these winds are really clocking fast. As a matter of fact, this looks like on the wind field a hurricane. It looks like a hurricane, and these winds are impacting the Pacific Northwest, and it's going to be driving, look at this, these winds right into San Francisco and areas further to the north as well, where we're going to see wind speeds. Look at this, 44 knots around here in this storm, 44 knots. See, as you get closer to the center, unlike a hurricane in this synoptic situation, the winds don't really get stronger around an eye. There's no eye wall or anything like that. But the further out we get, that's where we can see these wind gusts that are going to be approaching hurricane force. So that is really a very impressive view to the wind field. And I just want to show you the visible satellite image that I've activated here and turned on. Look at that storm spinning up. It looks just like a hurricane. It's a mid-latitude cyclone, but it's getting very intense. This is cold air coming around the storm right around here. And look at that, really wrapping up there. There was some clear skies, but they went away. And then look at the center of that low pressure system. And remember what I mentioned before. I mentioned that energy coming down. Look at that. That's the head of the next batch of energy coming down that's going to dive down and create the next intense low pressure system as this thing really wraps up. Now, let me take this full screen and show you something actually pretty cool as well. Here's that center of the cyclone. Look at this, part of the jet stream. This is part of the atmospheric river. Look at those striations in the cloud structure there, almost like gravity waves. You can see those moving along like feathers on a bird. But you can see the cold air, that another bout of energy that's going to dive down to the south. And one more thing, to the northwest, as you see this spinning around, look at this white. It's not moving like the clouds. You know why? Because it's snow. It's snowfall in the mountains of Western Canada. Lots of skiing going on there now, but you can see even into northern Washington, you can see snow on the mountains as the clouds take over. There's going to be a lot more snow on these mountains after this storm passes by. You know, it's going to the north now, and then the other one is going to develop just to the south. This is the radar data coming out of NOAA, the National Severe Storms Lab. This is called the MRMS product. It's multi-radar, multi-sensor. So we're not all just bringing in radar data, but sensors on the ground as well that are showing where it's raining. It's a really nice new product out of NOAA. But I'm going to point some things out here. These aren't too severe, but have some localized heavy rain showers, and you can see some coming right off of the Gulf of Mexico here that are going to be coming towards Mobile in the next couple of hours or so. But this is good radar data, and I want to take you over to the West Coast as well and show you what's going on there. So let me go over this way and then down here, and you can see in the Pacific Northwest that radar data. I'll get it. That radar data that is showing the rain coming in. And you can see this is lining up. This is as far as the land-based radar reaches. But you can see parts of the atmospheric river coming into view now. Really has its focus on Northern California and Southern Oregon here. Meanwhile, all the rest of the West Coast is going to be battered by rain and also very heavy winds. Now, I want to show you and widen out a little bit because I was talking about the moisture that we can show you. There's another product called total precipitable water or TPW. I showed you that over the last couple of days with the satellite imagery, but I want to show you more of a global perspective that is derived from satellites, polar orbiting satellites. So when you see it moving, occasionally you'll see some strips in the data show up. That's because the polar orbiting satellite paths didn't overlap. But let's take a look at that, and I'll show you what that looks like here. Here we go. So this is a global view of total precipitable water. And here's what I want to point out. Here is that system that's developing and looks like that it's that bomb cyclone. You can see it coming over here. It's developing. And look at that stream of moisture here that's just stretching out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stop this on the last image here just so I can point some things out. Here's that low pressure, that bomb cyclone that's developing. But look at all the moisture behind it. This moisture is going to be funneled right into California and Southern Oregon, which is why we're talking about 8 inches or more of rain, and it's going to be intense. Those winds are going to be whipping hurricane force wind gusts, probably 80 miles per hour or more. But this is total precipitable water. See, we can see all of the heavy rain that's falling in these areas. Look at this along the intertropical convergence zone and coming in, driving up into Mexico. And there's also some out here in the Atlantic and the Caribbean too. But this is a really spectacular image, and it's something that we keep track of multiple times during the day so we can see what's going on. Now, the atmospheric river scale, I mentioned before that we could have an atmospheric river 4 or 5 in the category or scale criteria, and this is basically what it means. When you have a AR1, it's primarily beneficial rain, helping to fill the reservoirs or add to the reservoirs in many areas. AR2 is mostly beneficial, could be hazardous when you have some localized heavy downpours and rain. AR3, kind of that balance of beneficial and hazardous. You do need the rain, you need the precipitation to fill up those reservoirs, but it could cause some local flooding. An AR4 is mostly hazardous, could be somewhat beneficial, but the rain comes down too fast to really harness all of that rain to capture it, and it runs off, creating mudslides, landslides, and a lot of floods. And good grief, an AR5 is something that is primarily hazardous. That means the rain is coming down too intensely. It's really overwhelming the reservoir systems. Water has to be released, so it causes hardship downstream from those dams and reservoirs. And so that is not something that we like to see. And that is what might be happening here over the course of the next couple of days here. And that is an atmospheric river. We're talking about these rivers making landfall or pushing all this moisture in, hitting the mountains, going up and enhancing precipitation. So this area is really under the gun from Washington down to Central California, where we're talking about these atmospheric rivers. And it's going to be continuous. I did want to show you the model data as well from the folks at the I do want to show you the model data as well from the CW3E model folks. So let's go over to that right now. It's called the Western Wharf model, and it's used by the folks there at the CW3E. That's the Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes, CW3E. And this is the model that they're looking at to identify what level of atmospheric river might be impacting the West Coast. And I'm just going to put this into motion so you can see it evolve. This is about this afternoon, about right now, and you can see that stream of moisture headed in to the West Coast. Not much of it is really hitting yet, but it is impacting the West Coast. Remember, we have those storm warnings in effect for the strong winds. Whenever you see these isobars close together like that, that means the wind is very strong because you have changes in pressure over short periods of time. When you change the pressure, see, it gets lower and lower and lower and lower. This is very windy when you see that on a weather map. Now we're going to put this into motion here, and I'll show you. This is tonight. Look at that, really wrapping up. But more importantly, the moisture that's going to be impacting Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. And that goes on into tomorrow. And then this system sort of, it gets very intense, but it somewhat dries out. But we have another kink in the pressure field down here that's going to develop into another intense low pressure. But notice this, that stream of moisture is continuing. into Northern California and Southern Oregon. This could be disastrous in some areas of California and Southern Oregon and along the West Coast because of the constant pounding. We'll see a peak in the rainfall intensity between now and tomorrow morning. It'll ease off slightly and then get hit once again, if not harder, with this particular system. And look at that wrapping up. Not as intense, but closer to the coast. And it's dragging all that moisture up with it. So look at that. It's a double barrel system, a 1-2 punch, not on the good side, where this system is weakening. This one's taking over into the main low, and then it moves up into Canada. But that stream of moisture continues. Now, what I'd like to show you is also the European forecast. The European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast, what their forecast looks like. This is about now, and I'm going to take this into motion. Look at that, getting so intense there. Those are strong winds. Boy, I think we're going to see quite a bit of damage from the winds on the West Coast. Even though they're used to things like this, this is an intense storm, probably 1 in a 10-year experience for this low pressure system to be so intense. So about every decade, a system like this forms. But then, as we put it into motion, look at that moisture streaming in there. Then that other low pressure system develops. The stream continues, and look at that. It takes over. But the stream of moisture is in the same location. We'll be talking about potentially historic rainfall in some of these areas. And then this low continues to batter the Pacific Northwest with strong winds. So we're talking about very large waves as well, 12 to 18 foot waves potentially impacting the coast. And so as we watch this happen, we're going to be keeping track of this, and we'll be telling you all about this system moving towards California, Washington, and Oregon, because this is one I think that could be for the record books in some areas. Maybe, probably not lowest pressure, although it could be getting close to it, but not really lowest pressure, but just the persistence in having two extreme low pressure systems developing and keeping that moisture going inland. So dam operators are watching this very closely, working with the folks at the Center for Western Water and Weather Extremes, knowing when to open those floodgates because they know that those reservoirs are going to be refilled from the intense rainfall that's happening. So we're going to be monitoring this and keeping an eye on it. We can't find the dry air until we go all the way down to the south. Look at this. This is dry air coming into Mexico, but the moisture is really winning out. This is a major system that's developing and bombing out right now from a meteorological perspective. That means the pressure, central pressure, is dropping rapidly, almost like a rapidly intensifying hurricane. But again, I explained before, totally different atmospheric dynamics are needed for this system as opposed to developing a hurricane. So we'll be back with an update tomorrow. We're going to keep this going for the bomb cyclone in the Pacific Ocean approaching Washington, Oregon, and California. And this is for the Western members and stakeholders of the SISE, the Sensitive Information Sharing Environment. We'll be putting this on the Signal app, and we'll be tracking this as the time goes on. So thanks so much for watching this update. Sorry, it was a little bit long, but this is an intense system really blowing up in the Pacific Ocean, and we're watching it with multiple satellites, multiple data feeds, and we'll keep you posted. Please watch out for yourself and also watch out for your neighbors. They do appreciate it. See you tomorrow.